This episode of Force Fed Cafe is brought to you by our friends at High on Life Superfoods. High on Life is the leading provider of hemp-based nutrient-rich supplements intended to instill optimal health to those who wish to perform at the next level. Their incredible product, LIT, is an amazing hemp-based raw food blend that helps reset your body's nutrient balance and kickstarts your metabolism to get you going through the day. High on Life is used by some of your favorite artists: Suffocation, Trivium, Dark Angel, Testament, Body Count, Overkill, 66 Samus, and more. Go to the highonlifesuperfoods.com website and enter the code FORCEFED10 on checkout to receive 10% off your order.
Hard Reuben. Oh my God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Hard Reuben's Force Fed Cafe, episode number 24. If you've joined me here before, you know that I'm not very good at asking people to subscribe to my podcast. I don't know, I'm still new, still feeling my way out, and still hoping that it'll catch on, but you know what? I need you, if you're interested, if you like what you're hearing, to go to your podcast provider of choice, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you like. Just go there, subscribe, hit the little button, leave a review. Hopefully you like it. That is the only way this podcast can grow. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Without you, I would be talking to myself in a room. Well, which is technically what I'm doing. I'm sitting here talking to myself in a room. But I have the opportunity to have some really great conversations, and I have received lots of good feedback, and people are enjoying what they're listening to. I don't know. You could listen to any other podcast, and thankfully you're listening to mine. So before I get into this episode, I want to say, please and thank you, if you haven't, follow me on Instagram at HardReubenOfficial, or on Twitter at ForceFedCafe, or on Facebook at ForceFedCafe, and send a message, reach out, say hey. If you got ideas for guests, let me hear them. If you want to be a guest, let me hear it. Today, still making my way through some conversations that I had late last year before life, the universe, and everything kind of took a turn and caused me to just sort of park everything for a little while. But I'm back. I'm on top of it. I'm having a lot of fun. This episode is with Grammy award-winning drummer Aaron "The Beast" Rossi. This man won a Grammy for playing with Ministry back 10 or so years ago. And, you know, I actually had never heard of him. And I started, it's like this. One of my favorite bands lost a drummer. And next thing you know, Aaron's name pops up, and I start just following him on Instagram, and he's posting videos of his drumming. And I've seen Prong play, and they are amazing live. They are a tight, unbelievable band. And Art Cruz, who had been in the drum seat, was definitely a tough act to follow. But Aaron Rossi, this was not his first rodeo. He had played with Prong previously in the past, and he knew the songs, and he sat down, and he, you know, you can see the stage rocking with this man's drumming. It is violent and amazing. So when I had the opportunity to have a chat with him, I was ecstatic. I reached out to him almost immediately and said, love Prong, super excited to see you on board, watching your drumming, you know, you're a perfect fit. Loved the album that you did with Prong called Power of the Damager. To this day, it is probably one of my favorite Prong albums. Maybe I'm alone. I don't know. But I love it. And when I realized that he was the drummer on that album, I was stoked. And, you know, we started some back and forths. We had some conversations. And it took us a while to be able to sit down and have the conversation for this podcast. But I think it was worth it. It was a great chat. It's a few months old now. It's a bit dated, pre-COVID, but I hope you enjoy it. I sure did. Check it out.
in your face.
Yeah, you are. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having some time for me.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well. This is the first time I've done a video WhatsApp interview. I ran some tests a little earlier because I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose sound quality because I did the video. Yeah.
Oh, it looks great and sounds great so far.
Yeah. So thanks for joining me. Let's start by having you introduce yourself to those who don't know you.
Yeah, my name is Aaron Rossi. I'm a Grammy-nominated drummer, formerly from the band Ministry, and I play drums for Prong currently.
Awesome. So I've been chasing you around for a while, trying to get some time with you. I'll admit that. Months and months, and I'm really appreciative that you have some time for me now. I'm going to start by talking about one of your recent Instagram posts. I'm a self-taught drummer, and it only took 5 years to reach my goal. Started playing in local bands at age 15 and major bands by 20. I love that. You gotta wanna, but all I could think of is at 15, all I wanted was girls. And I'm like,
that's right.
and I was like, hey, good for you. You perfected that by age 20, but buddy, what I wanted, I perfected by age 16.
I played saxophone at age 10. And by 15, I was in the county honor bands and had got a scholarship to music school from the saxophone. I started dabbling in the drums because my neighbor played drums, and I wanted to be cooler, man. At 15, I was at same exact reason. I wanted to date chicks. I wanted to hang out with cool chicks, but ultimately it was. I knew the chicks were going to get better as the bands got bigger and better. So even at 15, I was like, I'm good in this local band now, but I'm going to join another local band, and then another local band, and then 5 local bands, and then so on and so forth until they just got bigger and better, bigger and better. I didn't stop, man. I just kept going until 20. I finally joined Shelter and went on tour with them, and they were a signed group, and I had only played in front of bar and grill crowds, not festival crowds with thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands. I was just talking to somebody about it. I had to start from the ground up because I'm self-taught. It was just like, hey man, how did you do that? Hey, let me show you. Or just, watching some of the marching band guys, like, gee, look at that. I can't do that shit. I'm going to get on a drum set and I'll bash it musically.
Interesting that that was your sort of your trajectory, because one of the things, I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 10 years older than you. When I was a teenager, I got into music as well. I wish I could say that it was because I had the music in me and I had these grand dreams of writing these beautiful songs, but it wasn't that. It was boobs. I got into music to chase girls, and it wasn't long after that. I was kind of in bands for about 8 years, and then I got out because I realized I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything that I need to.
And Tommy's like, if you can play those new riffs for the new album, then you can definitely play Snap Your Fingers. And so we went straight in the recording studio to do Power of the Damager. And my first show with them was at the House of Blues. And I called my friend and I said, Preston, hey man, I'm playing with Prong down at the House of Blues. You got to come down, man. He's like, fuck yeah, man. I fucking love Prong. What band are you playing in? I'm like, no, dude, I'm playing in Prong, bro. You got to come. And he's like, what?
It's like, what?
He came down. Well, he's like, what do I do, man? I said, just tell everybody you're my drum tech. I don't know. Help me out. Just help me push some gear around. So he comes down with, he's wearing a Pantera shirt, how I met him. And we go backstage at the House of Blues, and he comes up. He's like, Aaron, fucking A, man, my fucking favorite bass player in the fucking whole world, dude. Fucking Rex Brown is standing right over there from fucking Pantera, dude. I don't know what to do. Just go up to him,
say hi,
and tell him that you're Preston Foster and you're Aaron Rossi's drum tech, and and that's what they did, and they maintained a relationship years afterwards. Those two.
Yeah, that's how it happens, right?
Oh man,
yeah, that's how it happens. It's just like, hey, I'm so and so. Oh, cool. Now we're friends.
The energy,
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, who was in the studio watching me record with Prong was Al Jorgensen, because we were signed to his record label. It was called 13th Planet Records at the time.
Yeah.
and he mixed one of the songs on the record, which was The Banishment. He basically changed the snare drum and made some edits, and that ended up being the single for that album. And then once that album released and I toured with Prong, we played a launch pad in Albuquerque, and the Jorgensen family came out with the whole crew and people from Ministry Band. So that was the first time they saw me play. It was like 2 weeks later, I got the phone call. They said, put in your 2 weeks notice. You're going to come to Texas. You're going to rehearse with us for a month straight, and you're going to do the farewell final tour with Ministry. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me,
Wow.
Hey, man, changed everything for me.
For sure. So for that Power of the Damager cycle, how long did you actually play with the band?
From 2005 to 2009. In 2009, Tommy had a tour with Soulfly, and the Jorgensens approached me about playing with Revolting Cocks. The problem with Prong being signed to the Jorgensens label was that they were always butting heads.
Yeah.
And they knew that Prong had the good musicians, and they took from Prong the good musicians.
Including Tommy for a while.
That's what they did, yeah. And Raven, John Bechtel. The list goes on. So I stuck with them. They promised me the world and promised me, a steady salary for 4 years. And, I listened to what a lot of industry people do to kids nowadays and just boost them up and make them feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make $1 million, or I'm going to own a big house, or I went that route and stuck with him. I tell Tommy now it was a mistake. I should have stuck with Tommy because I saw what he was doing from 2009 on.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. Those records that he was doing and putting out, the tours that he was doing. I was jealous. I know that Ministry was doing big things after 2012. And, and I got to be on live albums and studio album and this and that. So there was some good stuff definitely about it. But now coming back to Prong and missing those Tommy riffs and just missing him, period. Like, man, we each came from Ministry in Prong. We each played in the bands. We feel each other, and we have stories about, that group. But now it kind of burnt us out to the point where it's like, you know what, it's the three of us and we can go out and just kick ass, garage band style almost,
Yeah. And you can sure play Snap Your Finger, Snap Your Neck now, can't you? How many sticks have you broken playing that?
That is so funny you say that. Like the text, they always tell me, they're like, you play hard, man, but for some reason it comes in with that song and you're really hitting hard.
I think I saw a video of that. You like, just as you get into that, your stick just splinters and disappears out of your hand. So.
I'm a fan too, and ultimately, in order for the audience to feel that song fully, I have to feel it, and I have to move my own, near 300-pound body to it. And if I can move my body to it, then they're going to move their body to it, and so on and so forth.
So do you feel like you're home? You're going to be here for a while?
Yes. Tommy is, I know he's getting married soon, and he's going through a big life transition, and I'm not expecting Prong to be really busy, but I know that we have European tour coming up, and I know he's going to want to support it in the United States as well. Mm-hmm. My only hope is that we can go to countries we haven't been to before. That is based on a few different aspects and things, definitely money, but booking agents and promoters. Even today, somebody in Texas, hey man, what is it going to take for you guys to come out here and play my festival? And I'm like, I don't know. I just play the drums, man. I just play the drums. But I'm sure we'd love to come and play your festival. And here's who you contact.
Yeah. So I've talked about this before on my podcast, but my podcast is called Hard Rubens Force Fed Cafe. Force Fed, of course, is the name of the second Prong album. Back in the early 90s, I had a heavy metal radio show called Force Fed, and I pulled it straight from that album. I was like, there's my new name. Boop, that's it. Yeah. So I've hung on to it.
Yep. I
had a chance to tell Tommy that about 5 years ago. They were playing in Vancouver. I said to him, I named a radio show, and this is before I rebirthed this as a podcast, but I said to him, I had a radio show, and I named after Force Fed, and he looks at me and goes, you know that album? I'm like, of course I know that album. I mean, I said to him, I'm like, of course I know that album. I know all your albums. Like Lemmy had just passed. So it probably wasn't 5 years ago, but Lemmy had just passed. And I said to him, like, you're right up there with me, like Lemmy. And he looks at me and goes, oh, I wish. And I'm like, no, seriously, like he's got to be one of the hardest working dudes in the industry, right? Like make money or don't make money. He's always doing music. And he was kind of one of the first that I was aware of, because when you're just a fan of music, you're not really part of the ins and outs, but he was the first that I knew of that, oh, he just showed up in that guy's band. That's cool. And then you hear, oh, he did it because he needed to make a living. Yeah, I got to make a living. I wasn't making a living doing prong.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but these are things I've heard, from reading interviews over the years. And it's like, well, that sucks. But at the same time, working class musician, right?
Yeah.
So here you are, all these years later, you're back in prong. You've got an EP coming out, which is awesome. What are you going to do? Like, Aaron, do you still have a day job? You've been eking out a living doing this. And you mentioned having a job previously, selling tires and such. And I saw recently on Instagram, you're like, hey, I'm willing to do some musical consulting and some, drum stuff. So are you at this point able to say, I'm Aaron the Beast Rossi, and I'm making money as a musician? Or are you like, I got 4 months, I better find something to do for a little while?
Yeah, it's a part-time job.
Yeah.
The music is part-time.
Yeah.
I work a full-time gig, and I go in graveyard shift.
All right. And you know what? That's not uncommon.
I get a crazy discount on my drumsticks. I get a crazy discount on my cymbals and free drums and all that. But I still got to pay for some shit. And when you're off the road, you're not making money like you did during the 90s. They used to have retainers.
Yeah. Big
record labels would pay musicians, up to $500 a week just to sit at home. And at one point I had one of those groups when I first started out on Hollywood Records, which is Disney's record label. I think they still are. That's a different story. And when it came to this metal genre, I actually had to sit down with my parents and told them, when I was younger, I said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a professional heavy metal drummer. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, more tattoos, first of all. I'm probably going to ditch the glasses, put in some contacts, grow a beard or what, look the part, play the part. And I'm like, I'm really good at this shit. And I think I need to keep doing it. People are telling me, I'm good at this double bass thing. And I hit hard and they're telling me to play at the Whiskey. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it, And that's what I did. I just stuck to it. But I was working at the Whiskey and playing with 5 bands that performed there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody got to know this. Like, on Facebook, on Instagram, no one needs to know that that aspect or part of my life. I always try to portray a level of success, definitely. But I managed 7 bands at one time. I loved giving back to them and giving my knowledge and expertise and watching them come up. I mean, one of them's on tour with Static X right now. And, I'm like, what? I need to get back into that side of the industry. So I decided to do music consulting for drums and for music, for young drummers, for old drummers that have been doing it. Maybe there's things they're not seeing or doing that can better them or gain fans, or get them in a bigger band. Or for bands, everyone wants to be rich and famous or go on tour, And I'd like to tell them straight up and put everything out on the table. Hey, this is how it's going to be because that's how it was for me. Mm-hmm. Unless you have these things happen for you or you have the means to do this and that, just even today, like talking to, a guitar player for a metal band in Texas, he's at the same starting point as my band that's on tour with Static X right now. And I can see the same drive and talent that, level of talent that he has, that they had. I think that everyone has a possibility of getting out there and achieving their goals. It's just a matter of trying a few different things or changing things, or sometimes nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The industry's changed so much. You know, the way shows come along and they come with VIP packages now, and they come with, on one hand, it's kind of depressing because bands have been forced into that sort of situation where, you know, if we need to make a little bit of extra money, because you're not making money on record sales, you're making money on t-shirts and, you know, and that sort of stuff. So if you want to make a living, you have to go to that point where you're like, okay, so for an extra $45, we're going to spend, you know, half an hour with this many people. On one hand, that sucks for the bands.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that's kind of cool for the fans.
Yeah.
When I was 14 years old and I went and saw Black Sabbath and Wasp in Toronto, I would have paid $100 for that opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
But it didn't exist. And it's one of those things, because there's some artists that I hear and they don't like it. They don't want to have to be forced to go and be social when what they want to do is crash after the show. I get that. But it's part and parcel of the package now. You're giving fans an opportunity they wouldn't otherwise get. And you're putting a little extra dough in the band's pocket to pay for gas to the next town, right? How do you feel about those VIP packages?
I've never had a part of them. They've always been something that the lead singer and manager have set up themselves.
Okay.
It's very rarely that I'll be asked to go to a meet and greet. So I do try to hang out at the merch table or just kind of walk around and see if anybody recognizes or wants to talk, you know?
Yeah.
The VIP packages for ministry were so astronomically expensive, and you only got 30 seconds or 1 minute with the singer, you know? And I think it's cool. Like Five Finger Death Punch, the bass player gives away a bass, you know,
nice.
and stuff like that. I think that's the next level and what more bands should be doing. And
I saw Tommy did that.
I try to do that with, he did.
Yeah.
I try to do that with the kids, you know, because I feel like the least I can do for them is if they're going to stand in the front of the audience and root me on, then I'm going to give them something afterwards. And I've been trying to do that, you know, give them a broken cymbal or drumsticks or a set list or something like that, you know, and that doesn't cost them anything. It's just my appreciation to them, you know, for encouraging me or being there at my show. And it helps me gain more fans, you know, if people see them there, you know, or other kids see them there. So like my drum heads, when I change them, the merch guy always says, "Hey man, sign them and give them to me and put a price on them." I'm like, "No, man." It was quick. I'm like, no. Well, come on. You know, Hatebreed's doing it. This man's doing it. Obituary. That's cool that they're doing that, man. But leave it out of my hands. I don't want any part of it. That's you and Tommy can figure that out. Or you and the singer, whoever it is, you know?
Yeah.
That's why it's even difficult for me to charge money to do music consulting. I'd talk on the phone or I'd talk on a video chat as long as I could for free. That's for sure. And especially if it's about music, you know? So I have to come to terms with charging something in order to give my years of experience or expertise, you know, to that person.
Yeah. And I certainly think that there's balance to that, right? I mean, you mentioned it. Some bands charge amounts that they're not reasonable.
Yeah.
they're just not reasonable. And I saw a band this summer that was offering VIP packages, and their VIP packages were 5 times the ticket price.
Oh my gosh, man.
And the thing that's funny is that I had not heard of this band. I had not heard of this band for over 30 years.
That's so funny.
I was like, what? You know, as far as I can tell, most fans don't mind spending a little bit of extra money for that little bit of time with the singer that they like or the drummer that they like. And I think that's pretty classy when people take the time to make that happen. So
here's what's been happening of recent. Like, let's say Tommy is hanging out in the van, in the bus, then a fan will come up and want to talk, and he'll just ask them, he'll say, "Hey, I'll sign that. You going to buy something later?"
Sure. That's fair.
"Oh yeah, I'm going to get a t-shirt." Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. No problem. I'll do this for you. You do that for me, you know?
Yeah.
And just cause it is a business, and this is how he makes his money, you know?
And I think that's totally
30 plus years.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I was super excited when I saw that Tommy was VIPing a couple of his old guitars.
Yeah.
And I was like pissed because you weren't coming near me. I was like, I want one of Tommy's guitars. Come on.
Well, now it's gotten to the point where the collectors are, they'll send me messages. Hey, man, are you guys willing to part ways with that backdrop or with some posters or some laminates or da-da-da-da-da?
Sure, for $5,000 or
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to change the tires in the van, so yeah.
Exactly.
So you've got an EP coming out. You've got some tour dates coming up in the new year, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're home. Where's home?
Currently, I'm 30 minutes north of Seattle in Everett, Washington.
Oh, nice. We're not that far away from each other.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
Are you Vancouver?
I'm in Vancouver Island, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually do my podcast from inside of a camper in my backyard. You don't get more West Coast than that.
That's so cool. Because you can.
Yeah, that's right. Because I can.
Yeah, I moved to Washington State 5 years ago. I had a child, Remo, and cost of living in Hollywood was too high, and being a musician and working. And so we moved up north. I started the most northern, which was Bellingham, just south of the border. And then started working for FedEx full-time on the San Juan Islands, and eventually bought a house there. Island life wasn't for us, so we moved to Everett. I'm not sure what the future holds. That's for sure. I moved because I was in ministry at the time, mm-hmm. and each of the members had lived in different states. So I thought it would have been good, but it wasn't. I lost track with the industry. I lost track of friends. I lost track of, but I was focused on my family and focused on my son and whatever I needed to do to provide and mm-hmm. and have a good family life,
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to balance that when you're a full-time touring musician.
Yeah, that's the goal, is life balance for sure.
Yeah. I got a little off track. I've never done this video thing, and nobody's going to see this, of course, because it's an audio podcast. But I'm having fun, looking at you. It's actually a different vibe, so that's pretty cool. I assume, of course, many people do, that if you're in a metal band, you're a metalhead. But then you auditioned for Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
So are your musical tastes varied like that? Are you just loving music, or are you just, are you a metalhead that was just like, I'm going to reach for the brass rail or the brass ring?
That's the reason I auditioned for Gaga, because I was a fan at the time. Monty played with Madonna, and he asked me, he said, hey man, now that, your M band, your ministry band is done, what do you want to do now? And I said, I want to play drums for Lady Gaga. And it was literally the next day I was auditioning for her in New York. That's how quick shit happened.
Wow. Was that just like, it just happened, or had you already sorted that out when you said, I want to play drums?
Yeah, she was auditioning right away. And it was like one of those things, like the inside group knew about it. And if he's an insider, then connect him with another insider. And I got this email out of nowhere, like, this is your audition time at this studio, and be there. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to book a flight. I got to book a hotel. I got to book a whatever, and it cost so much money, but I was a fan of hers at the time, and I thought it would have been fun to play that music. And still, same today. I'm not a Gaga fan today, but I'm eclectic. I'll listen to my friends like, oh my God, I can't believe you're listening to that Jonas Brothers song.
Well, I'm gonna a little moment of truth here. I had not listened to Metallica in a very, very, very long time. I just had lost interest in the band. They hadn't put anything out that really grabbed me until I saw that performance they did with Gaga, and then I went, I'm gonna give them a chance.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Isn't it though? I mean, I was a huge Metallica fan for the longest time, but somewhere along the way, I just was like, I don't know. And then I saw that performance and I was like, yeah, they got it still. I picked up the album and it's definitely, in my view, their best album in years. It's because of that botched Gaga performance they did. That's
so funny.
Yeah, that brought me back. And I was like, yeah, I'm okay with this.
I had a few influences to make me have a versatile playing style or to be versatile on the drums and to have an eclectic and versatile ear and be able to pick up the sticks and go and play with anybody I wanted to. Or the music that I'm listening to, I think the Grammys did have a big influence on that. Is I want to see what the National Recording Academy is awarding. I want to see who they're recognizing. And besides myself, they recognize me. I want to see who else they're listening to and get an idea of what's hip and what's trendy nowadays and that kind of thing. And let's take, Skrillex for one. When he came out, I was playing him on the Ministry bus, and the guys got on the bus and they're like, what the fuck is that, man? It sounds like a computer is throwing up, man. Like, dude, what is that shit? I'm like, all right, I'm going to take it off. But I guarantee you this kid, he's going to win Grammys. Fuck you. He ain't going to win shit. This is shit. He won 6 Grammys that year. Is like, I told my mom, I said, I have a feeling this kid is going to do. And how do you know? I'm like, because he spent hours and hours and hours perfecting this style that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
And it's taken so much time to do this. And he's collaborating with so many artists. And that's what they want to see, Mom, is people working together to create music and make that great product. And it's a hit song, and the hit songs and hit album and that kind of thing. They recognize that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
If it's a local band, still, if they sell 500,000 units like Arcade Fire did, then they're going to recognize that. And then all of a sudden the world knows about them and wants to hear them more. And, it's not all bullshit. Part on TV of the Grammys is that's the shit that we see. That's the most top selling stuff. But you don't see who won the best Hawaiian awards or the best blues artist or the best, metal.
Yeah.
So it's good to listen to as much music as possible. And, and a lot of friends will be like, dude, this is what I'm listening to now. And I don't pick it apart. I just listen to it and say, okay, and think this is what my friend likes. Do other people like this? Is this snowballing? Is this band getting bigger and bigger?
Yeah.
When I first met John Sykes, I was talking about it with a friend today. Like he said he liked Seven Dust, and it made me remember when I was 20, I was jamming with John Sykes from Whitesnake and Thin Lizzy, and he was kind of my mentor. And he's like, Aaron, what are you listening to nowadays, man? I said, Seven Dust. He's like, oh, I've never heard of that, man. What label are they on? I'm like, they're on, TVT Records, So, but like Sykes told me, I don't know who that band is. I don't know who that label is. How many units are they selling? Aaron, I think you really need to listen to, Linkin Park and POD. And I'm like, shit, man. And he was respecting them more because of the units that they're selling,
right.
The size of the label that they're on. It did influence me a little bit. He sold #1 hits, 16 million records he sold for one song, 2 songs, That part of me is there. The part of me that's hardcore punk where it started, that's there too. The metal part is there also, and that's what I'd like to talk about with these bands and musicians that want, consultations. It doesn't matter what style they are. It's the same rules and regulations for everyone,
mm-hmm.
No matter what style you're in. And I only know that because I was auditioning for or playing with those artists, or they're my friends or who, whatever. Producers, managers, musicians, booking agents, techs. Some kids are influenced to stop playing the drums and they'll become a tech. And the techs make more fucking money than the musicians do.
That's one of the things that I try to really focus on, that sort of working class thing, right? And I've been pretty lucky. I've talked to a number of people who your household names in some cases, right? Or your band is a household name. People know who your band is. And it's like, so what do you do when you're not in that band? It's like, oh, I'm a guitar tech. I'm a drum tech. I'm a pharmaceutical rep. It isn't the old days. Your rock stars don't have to be rock stars. They're folks that you respect, you love, you buy their stuff, you listen to their albums, you want their autograph, you want a picture, but you got to make a living. And
I have a great example of that. There's a major metal band that Prong toured with recently that's been around for 30 plus years. And their lead guitar player, he shows up to the club with a windbreaker or a hoodie on, with the hood over his head, with a hat on. And he sets up all the band's gear. He sets up all the guitars, the bass, all that stuff. And then he takes that hoodie off and picks up the guitar. And then he's the guitarist of the headlining band.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He's a tech. He gets paid from being a tech.
Yeah.
He gets paid for being the guitar player in the major band. And then when he goes home, he has a job back home too.
That's what you got to do, right?
Come to find out. And this is what he's telling me after I'm telling him that I work full time. And he's like, man, you should get into this. I'm into this. And it's a good paying gig on the side. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? This guy plays in a major metal band. It's on a bus. There's so many records. They got all this merch they're selling or whatever.
Yeah.
He's still doing side jobs, making money. Who knows what he's got to pay for back home, but it doesn't matter. Money is money. And what is he going to do during that time that he's off or not on tour? You going to sit around? Are you going to, you work so hard to rehearse your instrument and get those chops up. It's the best thing is to go out and play, or give back your brain and your expertise to someone that is out there playing,
Yeah. I don't want to take too much of your time, Aaron. I really appreciate the sacrifice you've made to spend this time with me.
Thanks so much.
I've had a great chat. I could literally talk to you for another hour, but I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll feel like I need to send you a check.
That's so funny. Especially in the past few weeks. Yeah. My friend's like, how much you charging for this one? I'm like, no, man. You don't understand. It's a phone interview for a podcast.
Yeah. And thank you for that. And I definitely appreciate it. And I'm going to have fun. So I'm going to have fun listening to the tunes you're recording and watching for when Prong comes to my neighborhood again. I have a lot of fun. I follow you, I follow Tommy, and I follow Jason. And it's so real because both you and Jason, it's like, I'm rocking out. Here's my boy. I'm rocking out. Here's my boy. Right. It's so there's such a family feeling to you as a group. I kind of watch you guys with your boys there, and it just feels to me like Prong is a family. People come and go, but it's still a family. And, it's nice to be a fan of a band like that.
Oh, yeah. So, brothers. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm always here for you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we could finally connect.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, sir.
I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Cheers.
Okay, bye.